How's it going?
Hey, good. Great. How are you?
Good. Yeah, going good. I think there's a bit of a delay, but we should be able to get across, still communicate, I guess. So
Yeah.
where are you right now? Just
I'm in Durango, Colorado, which is up in the mountains. It's
okay,
beautiful.
nice.
So
And what's your history in typology?
I got into typology back at around 92.
Oh wow.
Went through yeah, my life fell apart. I was 28. My life fell apart. And I realized I had no idea who I was. I was this young kid with three kids. And, you know, now all of a sudden thrust into being a single mom and all those wonderful things. And um, yeah, so got into I can't believe I'm nervous. That's really fun. Um, but started looking at modalities and learning styles and how people are wired, and I just got addicted. It was
Hmm.
really cool to understand why people do what they do and how their functions work and how their piece work. So when I found OP, the guy only 3 or 4 months ago, it was a really cool add on to everything that I had already studied and already knew.
Right. So what did you type yourself an MBTI back in '92, or what was the first?
Yes. Well, and the first one was looking at, I studied a person, looked at, her name's Cynthia Tobias. So she looked at different modalities of um, different learning styles. So it wasn't until probably 5, 6 years later that I found MBTI,
Okay. And so what did you get typed as back then?
and ENFP, which is, if
ENFP.
I'm a photographer, I'm really random. I love, odd stuff that people don't always enjoy. Um, so I'm very, um, sorry, would you repeat the question? Sorry.
What were you typed as back when you started typology?
An ENFP.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And do you resonate with that? Is that something that's always been consistent with you, or did you sort of go think you were something else at some point, or
No, not until I got into OP and I wondered if I was FE because I'm very tribe
right?
oriented, or I thought I was very tribe oriented, and had a conversation with Dave about a month ago now. And he explained to me as we were talking that my tribe that I'm very tribe over self with was a part of my identity. It's my kids, my grandkids, my close friends. So I'm not tribe over self with the entire world.
Mm.
Been through a lot in my life. And so my ideology is if you're willing to pick up yourself by your bootstraps and conquer and address the things you're going to, then I'll come right next to you and I will walk with you. But um, other than that, then I'm not going to basically do that. So when Dave and I were talking about the parties, what he explained to me was that my um, my tribe was a part of my identity, was part of my we, which was really interesting and
Hmm.
really accurate. So the people that are really close to me, I give my life for, and it's always self above tribe, or excuse me, tribe above self. But then that I'm not, and that surprised me, but he was right.
Hmm. And do you see yourself as also double deciding?
Yes, my kids
Yeah.
grew up with people rock, people suck. That's just the
Yeah.
way they are. So I'm very, very much, I use my thinking a lot. My thinking is double activated. So I use that
Hmm.
um, very E and very FI. FI first, than T, but I use them both pretty equally.
Yeah. Um, I'm. Did they type you as a masculine sensory?
No, I
No,
am
because like I
masculine
do see
sensory.
your, yeah, because I do see your authority and your like you're pretty solid on the facts. Like,
I'm sold on the fact that I have intimate contact with, but I don't remember much. When people ask me, when was this? What was this? If I haven't zoned in and it's not a part of who I am, I'm not going to remember.
hmm hmm yeah, I'm
I
I'm just
remember
trying to
patterns.
look where your sense of authority comes from, and it seems to come more from the details rather than. But I'll
Yeah.
keep looking here. So
Okay.
you identify then with a masculine intuition,
Yes.
masculine NE? Okay.
Yes.
How does that express itself?
For myself, I see patterns everywhere. I'm connecting patterns. Um, I connect patterns everywhere. I see from, seemingly disparate things. And when you're having a conversation with me about, especially about something conspiratorial, not strange conspiratorial, but
Right.
looking at that, I see this piece and this piece and this piece. I see how my kids act when they were growing up, and I could see this pattern is going to create this pattern over here, and this is what's happening. I'm always connecting patterns.
hmm What about seeing the
So
possibilities in the moment and things like that?
define your question. What do you mean by possibilities of the moment?
Like possible outcomes, possible explanations, possible understandings in the moment. Is that something that pops up a lot? Lots of different options, lots of different.
Yes. If I'm understanding your question correctly, I am looking at possibilities. Um, Sorry, my husband's calling me and distracting me. Um, so I am always taking, it depends on how you define in the moment. Um, when something's happening, I'm looking at 5 steps out. I'm not looking at right here this second as much as I'm looking out. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah. And what about in terms of gathering intuition and gathering the patterns?
Yeah, I live on YouTube all day. I'm a photographer, so I'm retouching, and I'm just consuming different NE kind of stuff.
hmm so what's in any kind of thing?
Um, Again, entertainment. I like things that are new. I like things that are interesting. So looking at, we're going deep dark stuff, not dark, but you know, 9/11, Kennedy, just all the different conspiracies out there. I'd love to get authoritative sources. Your AI stuff, your molecular um, biology, thank you, synthetic biology, all the things that are happening today and how they're going to affect us down the road. I know that people don't have any clue how what's happening now in this synergy of the artificial intelligence, all the different pieces that are happening. You've got your CRISPR technology, you've got your genetic stuff, you've got computer AI stuff, and how it's all accumulating and what that's going to look like 5 years and how
hmm
fast that's going. That's a really great example of conspiracy kind of thing that I
Right.
love. It's fun, it's passionate,
Um,
it's
right. Are you concerned in the accuracy of the conspiracy, or it just has to be interesting for it to be on your radar?
again, for me, it's interesting, which makes it fun because I like fun.
Right.
But yes, I am looking for the people that I research are going to be your CEOs of your major companies, people with PhDs. I'm not listening to Joe Bob that's, just talking. out of his garage. I want somebody that has the education and the authority to
Authority.
gather my
Hmm.
information from.
So it's important that the person has
So
authority and not that they're right,
not um not so much
or they go
authority,
hand in
that's
hand.
probably the wrong use of words, but somebody that is knowledgeable and has researched something thoroughly rather than just somebody that's picking crazy things out of the air.
Hmm.
So
Um, what about in terms of freedom and your desire for freedom?
yeah, that's why I
Yeah,
do what I do. Yeah.
yeah.
So I pick my own hours. I do my, I work crazy hours, but if I want to go paddleboarding with my girlfriend, then I can schedule my day around that and just work late. So I don't have anybody telling me what to do. And that's really important to me. So yeah,
Yeah.
my freedom
So
is like huge top on my radar.
in regards to like the conspiracy theories that you're interested in, are they things that you're maybe wary of control, of wary of
Oh, absolutely.
maybe
Yeah.
big government, eye in the sky, all this kind of stuff?
Yeah. I'm stereotypical ENFP. So
Right. Is
now,
it is
does it keep me up at night? It's entertaining to me. It's not that I take it so seriously, but it's fun and it is a consideration. And OP has really helped me check some of that stuff and go, okay, let's bring this down to earth. Let's, yeah. So OP has been really, really good for me to bring things into balance.
do you say you have a fear of control or a fear of big government or
It's not a fear.
no?
Um, no, I'm not just being my age, I don't walk in fear. I never have, but I do deal with anxiety sometimes because and
Mhm.
there's I guess it's a nuance of a difference. Um, so yeah. So it's not something I'm afraid of, but it is something that if I really felt something was concerning, then I would take steps to oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, to intercept that.
Mhm. So what did you mean when you
So
said anxiety? What kind of anxiety did you experience or do you experience? Where's the source of
I
that?
have I think it's probably because my brain never shuts up. So I'm always, my brain is pinging and pinging and pinging and pinging and pinging, and it just can be overwhelming. So I have sleep last, which is
Right.
I'm not sure about if I have blast last or sleep last. I go back and forth. They're both. I do both. I know consume is first, play is second. I'm not sure whether it's blast last or sleep last.
Mhm.
So
But so the source of the anxiety, you think it's from the sleep last or the blast last?
not from the not from blast last. Sleep last. Well, the source of anxiety is that there's too much going on in my head. And
Okay.
so I'm constantly thinking, does that make sense?
Yeah. Um, and how does that create an anxiety? Maybe you can just explain it a little bit.
Um, think about it. Um, um, looking at my own patterns, looking at things in my life that is happening, I guess possible consequences of what I'm doing now, what I'm refusing to do. Um, for instance, in my business, I think the marketing that's out there is it's pretty manipulative. I photograph high school seniors, I photograph families, and so in order to get to high school seniors, you need to. And what I watch other photographers in the area do is you're playing to a lot of the culture. I'm pretty old school. Um, you the images that you're putting out to be able to get the business, that kind of thing. I refuse to do. So, and also I don't like doing it. Um, so there's anxiety of looking at um, business falling off from where it used to be now because
Mhm.
I'm not doing what I need to do. So that kind of thing. So seeing a pattern of if I do this or don't do that, what's going to happen 5 steps out.
You
That makes
mentioned
sense.
earlier, yeah, yeah, it does. You mentioned earlier that you were getting into typology because your life was sort of falling apart or something. Can you tell me a little bit
Right.
about that? Is it related to that a little bit too?
Probably. Again, young kid, 28, 3 kids. Um, yeah, I don't need to get into the craziness. Um, my girlfriend told me recently that I do typology. Um, I can't believe I'm sharing this on a video. To keep me safe because I know how people are going to act, and I can create my own little bubble. So,
Hmm.
hmm. So this is a play, figuring things out while I'm talking. So, so it would be to, yeah, so yeah. Um, yeah. Anyway, go ahead and let's move
Yeah.
on.
Did they give you feminine feelings, masculine to E?
Um, we talked about no, and that was one of my questions because I when I get into my feelings, which isn't very often, unless I'm really talking about something um, like this, my identity, and that's where I was confused, and that was one of my questions because I thought that I was feminine feeling because I'm always on the brink of tears growing up. I don't get mad, I cry. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I have such a strong identity. I know who I am. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. Um, I shove as an adult, the past probably, 15 years, I shove very much when somebody's going against my identity. So, and when, oh, her name, it's really long. So, Angelica had put up a thing about the masculine DI. I don't know if you saw that. It was really, really good. But the masculine DI strategy versus the feminine DI offense and defensive strategies. I
Right.
really, really identified with the masculine strategy. So
Like
that was
being
interesting.
tough on the outside and to protect your soft inside sort of thing?
Knowing that people aren't movable because I'm with my identity, I'm not movable. I know who I am. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is what my beliefs are. And I'm not movable on those things. And so I just assume
On
everybody
your
else
beliefs.
is right on my beliefs on, and especially on who I am. Um, so I just figure everybody else is too. And so I'm going to
So do you
move
get that?
with that information. I'm going to
Mm.
move around somebody. I'm not going to try and um, move them. I'm going to move around them instead of actually moving them.
Right. So do you get that cat energy too then when like you're soft and caring sort of on the outside, but if people step too far, you'll bite their head off sort of thing? Like does that happen?
No, never.
No.
I mean, I don't have a lot of. I'm not really sure about what the dog energy is. I'm not.
Right.
I will cry instead of being angry. So,
Cry instead of
but I'm being angry.
okay.
So instead of lashing out at somebody, I'm going to walk away.
Hmm.
Um, I'm going to move away from them. I have to internalize when I have a disagreement with somebody, or if somebody's attacking me with that cat energy, or even a dog energy. I have to go away and process my emotions before I can come back and um, talk to them and be able
Okay.
to deal with the situation.
Um, what are some of the things that you value? What are some of the like? Do you place things in like a hierarchy, knowing what's more important than what?
For me, what's most important is my family. My
Right.
kids. Not above, not my sisters, my parents, but my children and my grandchildren and my very close friends are the most important
Hmm.
to me. Um, my faith is pretty important to me, um, although sadly it's not over the top important. Um, which, yeah, it's really funny because I feel like it should be because of the way I was raised, but truthfully, um, it's not as important as I would like it to be, or that I feel it should be. But I don't care because that's who I am and what I think. So, well, besides my kids and my family, there's
Hmm.
not really a hierarchy.
Um, what about things that you like? I don't know, music. I guess you're more visual than if you're they put you as FF, double feminine.
Yes. So, actually, I have I don't process sound well.
Uh-huh.
So music isn't a huge part of my life. Um, but when you're asking if I know what I like, my FE friends, um, for instance, when I go to Starbucks, there's a Starbucks right down next to my business. Um, and, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And if it's not made right, I am going to nicely have you remake it. So when I go to a restaurant, if something's not made the way I like it, then I'm going to nicely send it back. I'm not going to be a jerk about it. But so it's been really interesting to watch that part, going, huh, I do that very much.
Huh.
So,
But so you don't see that as being masculine with the tribe to sending things back like that? Is that something you had to get to, or
you know, um, no, that's very, no. So it's the masculine TEFI that I'm not sure of.
yeah? Uh-huh.
Um, so because I do, yeah, I'm not sure about my modality on, I know that I'm definitely
Well,
masculine NE, but I'm not sure whether my FI or my TE, because I can make an argument for both.
when you send it back, is it more because like on principle it should be made correctly, or is it
No,
more because you don't
no,
like it and it's
be,
not to your taste?
because yeah, because it's not the way I like it. This is what I ordered, and my reason is I work so hard for my clients. I
Right.
bust my butt. I work crazy hours so that everything's perfect. So when I'm going out and I'm spending my money, I want it the way I want, and I want it the way I like it. So
Right.
because again, I work
Uh-huh.
so hard for everybody else and bend over backwards for them. So for my client.
Right.
So
So yeah, yeah, I do see a little double deciding there. That's interesting. Uh-huh. Like, because like you're balancing the two. You're like, I'm doing for others so then I can do for myself, sort of thing.
right, right, exactly.
Yeah. What about things like validation, things like that? Are you interested in being, say, like told that you're doing a good job? Do you like the appreciation?
It's interesting what uh, it drives me nuts when somebody says thank you and value you. Awesome,
Right.
perfect. Uh, um, but it's not something that I need. In fact, when it's done too much, I am, um, yeah, it drives me crazy, and I'll actually go away from that person. I have somebody in my life right now that is constantly telling me, "Oh, thank you, I appreciate that. You're so wonderful." No, 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 no. It's like, oh my gosh, and I don't even want to be around that person.
Really?
So yeah, so I'm
Okay.
very, very, yeah. And it goes back to
Yeah.
I know what I'm really good at. I know what I'm not really good at.
Uh-huh.
But if somebody doesn't value, take my photography with my family. Um, that I had one sister that wanted me to go photograph her son's wedding in the middle of the week, which meant I had to close my studio for a week and do all the stuff. My weddings were when I was doing weddings were pretty high end, and but I asked that she help with a little bit of the travel expense, and so she had responded that um, they had just bought a boat, so they couldn't do that. I mean, it was this little tiny little help with travel. And
Right.
so to have that disvalued what I do, um, that's different than being appreciated and being thanked and having to
Right.
be when you value what I'm good at and what I'm gifted at, then I have a hard time with that. But I don't need the validation.
Hmm.
It seems
So
like the
Sheila has a
same
little
thing, but it's
comment
very, very
here.
different.
That's what it's like with my masculine FI. I'm so hard on myself, therefore I expect others to live up to that standard too. Do you resonate with this?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Um, Tell me, what would insult you more if someone were to say that you were not intelligent or you were stupid, or to say that you're not a good person and you're not nice or something like that?
Um, I think it would insult me more to say that I'm not intelligent and stupid. So
That would insult you more. Okay.
yeah.
If someone were to say you're not being nice right now, or you're being cruel, or something like that, or not even just right now, you're a bad person. If someone were to say that to you, that wouldn't really offend you.
No.
Yeah. No. Okay. Um, well, can you tell me maybe why you think that wouldn't be offensive?
Um, I think because um my identity has always been um around the and for different reasons was well, I'll just say what the reasons are. Um, I think it's because when I have a little sister that's 11 months younger than I am, and she was put in the gifted program in kindergarten. I was
Uh-huh.
having ear issues at the time, so I had to get in that program. And so she would always berate me that I wasn't smart as her. And
Uh,
so my dad would tell her, yeah, well, when you get the grades she does, you know, then you can
yeah.
talk. And then I got put in the gifted program. And so that's why that would be offensive to me. But I know I'm a really nice person.
Right.
So somebody telling me that it wouldn't even faze me because I know that's not true. Whereas the other was something that was a trigger point growing
Because
up.
it's not true.
And I know
Yeah.
I'm really smart
Um,
too. I mean, I'm a smart person. So, but there's
right.
there's baggage attached to that issue where there's not either.
Yeah, it's not an unconditional love sort of thing. It sounds like when you were growing up, like there was conditions on love.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, t Okay, tell me about the structure in your life. h- were you always very
Is there
structured?
structure?
Have you introduced it slowly?
Hmm.
Do you have it now?
I'm really working on my SI. I remember just funny little story when my oldest daughter, we had our graduation party at my house, and somebody told my daughter that I just don't understand your mom's organizational system. My daughter looks at her and says, "My mom has an organizational system?" So, yeah, no, definitely has demon SI, but it's something again at my age that I'm working really hard at. And it's
Right.
interesting to see that I have the ability because it is on the NESI, um, even though the SI
Right.
is, my percent, so to speak, that I do have that ability and I actually kind of like it. So I'm using it for the first time in my life. So,
Yeah. I've noticed a lot of NE DOMs. They have cleaner houses than SE DOMs. They're more organized, and they they even learn to enjoy it. Whereas, yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's really funny. I mean, my house has
yeah.
always been clean, but it's not like hyper the way some of my
Well,
lead
from your
SI group are,
perspective, right? From Yeah, okay, all right.
right?
But like from the perspective of an NI or an SE user, it would be, I think, more organized in the sensory, at least.
I
So
live there, yeah.
what
My
about?
NI friends, their houses are pretty organized.
Mhm. So it's supposed to be a feminine SI. Does everything have its place in your house, or does the place move for everything?
The place moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I got a tile just so that, one of those things that you can use the alarm on with your phone or with the tile so you can find your phone or find your keys. Yeah, that's been very
right.
helpful and very, I, and I know where I'm great at. I know where I suck at. So I create strategies on the things that I'm weak at. So like
Uh-huh.
the tile, because I'm going to put my keys God knows where. So,
What about?
or my phone,
Yeah.
who knows?
What
Yeah.
about scheduling? So you're doing the photography business. What about scheduling, keeping a schedule, being places on time, stuff like that? Was that ever a struggle for you?
If it's not in I use again the strategy thing. My strategy is my calendar. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. And with my clients, I'm never late, ever. But in my personal life, if it's not really important to me, I'm probably going to be late.
If it's not important to you, yeah.
So uh,
Um,
if it's not important to me, or if I'm not imposing on other people, if it's going to be imposing on, I'm going to be on time. So a little bit of that
uh-huh.
PE on there.
Hmm. Um, are you What about SI in terms of being aware of your body, your health, things like this? Are you focused on that? Are you aware of that? Or is it something that maybe you've been ignoring a little bit?
No, I totally used to pain and I
Right.
ignore my body all the time.
Hmm.
So um, my youngest daughter is lead SE and she's very, very in tune to what's happening in her body. And she's having to really help me purpose to start paying attention.
Hmm. Do you get that kind of crash where you just go, go, go all the time?
And then crash has.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Have you had? Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Is there a big crash that maybe you've had that sort of woke you up to that, or not yet, and hopefully never?
I had a physical crash this summer. I was working so hard. Plus, my mom has Alzheimer's, so helping with her. Um, and I literally, physically, my shoulder froze. So, um, so that was a physical crash. My other crashes are less severe, but say I'm hanging out with my friends all day and going, and then all of a sudden they'll be like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "What do you mean, what's
Mm,
wrong?" But it just that just crashed. It's just done. So,
mhm.
um, there's nothing wrong. I just all of a sudden my energy is like seeped out of my body, which is kind of bizarre.
Yeah. And I guess you're not aware of the energy issues, like you're not keeping track of it during the day. It just sort of sneaks up on you.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not paying attention at all. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's more consistent with the sleep last
Yeah.
and infodom, not energy dominant, not paying attention to the energy. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, do you find that when you do create a structure in your life that it does give you more freedom in the end, that it lets you feel more free?
Yes. And that's what right now I'm really working um, on my SI. And yes, that is very true. That's why I really need to get a hold of that in my life, in my business. I need to get a
Hmm.
hold of. Usually, I'll hire somebody in to come and do SI stuff and get all that stuff organized, and then my systems fall apart. And yeah, there's a lot more freedom and a lot more peace of mind when I use my SI.
Hmm. Okay. Um, do you have anything maybe that you want to mention about your type that maybe to help someone else, or any life discoveries or something like that that maybe you can share with us?
Yeah, people that are FE or NEFI, such a great type. I mean, again, here's my identity thing. Um, it's just really nice people. The thing that I've seen with other FIs around, and I used when I was, in my 20s and 30s, I was a lot like that, just scared and not paying attention to my S stuff around me, not paying attention to the sensory stuff, attention to getting so caught up in um, NE kind of stuff. And it's so true. Get so caught up with any stuff, they just don't pay any attention to the sensory. And most people aren't like that. They don't. It's really hard to follow an ENFP because we're just all over the place. So if they can um, start, paying attention to on purpose, paying attention to sensory, and know that with that FI, um, to use that, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, know where you're great at, and really love that piece of yourself. Um, and being a double decider is a huge superpower to be able to see the good in people, to be able to see the bad in people, and choose to look at good, choose to look at the positive, um, choose to do. And I think that, with
Hmm.
ENFPs, very, very attuned to who they are and to just go with that because you go from your strengths, not from your weaknesses. Um, I told my middle daughter one time, she was, and I'm pretty sure she's FESI, and she was being really overly sensitive. And I asked her, you know, do you know what the difference is between a strength and weaknesses? And she said, no. I said, well, let's, a strength is just, our weakness is a strength brought to an extreme. So, and I used her old sister for an example, who is either NETI or NETE, and I'm not sure which. She's just way, way, way extrovert. But anyway, I said, how your sister, how she's a great talker. She can weave stories, she can debate a point. She's just a great talker. And my youngest daughter, sorry, I'm telling a story, I shouldn't be doing that. But anyway, she's just a great talker. And she's like, yeah, she really is. said, well, that's the great thing about her. But do you know how sometimes she talks too much? And she says, yeah. And I said, well, that's just that strength too much. And so the great thing about you is that you are sensitive. You're sensitive to people, you're sensitive to, the voice of God, you're sensitive to animals. That's the great thing about you. And she said, oh, I just have to make sure I'm not being much. So my whole point is to um, take your strengths. Your strengths are great. Your saviors are great, like Dave and Shan talk about all the time. Your saviors are awesome. They just make sure they're not too much. I guess that whole rambling point to agree with Dave and Shan.
Right. Yeah. And find the balance.
And find the
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Carol. I just wanted to ask maybe one last point on your NE. Do you focus on the positive a lot? Do you try to see the positive possibilities, or do you also always see the negative possibilities and give them equal weight?
I see both. I always see both, but I choose to the best of my ability positive.
Mm-hmm.
And
Is that something that you had
if
to?
there is a negative, if I see the negative, look for a way to circumvent the negative to turn it into a positive.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a learned skill.
It was learned. Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Okay. Awesome, Carol. Thank you very much for coming out. It was great to get to know you, and have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Bye, everyone.
Okay. Thanks
Bye,
so
YouTube.
much.